giving minority groups elevated special status. Let me repeat. No religious minority groups, or any religious group, frankly, races or ethnicities, should ever be allowed a free pass to carry weapons in Britain. If you want to carry a knife for your religious reasons, then go to a country that allows it. We don't want that here in Britain. And yes, I am deeply intolerant of it. We need to be more intolerant of things that have no place in British society. Henry Novak didn't have to die. Left-wing obsession with multiculturalism let him die. It's another death on the altar of diversity and inclusion. And those police officers need to face serious consequences for their failure to do the bare minimum of their job. So for now, I'm waiting for the statues, for Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner to take a knee for Henry, Instagram squares to be filled by left-wing activists with white pictures. But something tells me the left just don't care because he is white. Should we get the thoughts of my panel on this one? Journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, Conservative peer Lord Bailey, and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larzer. Linda.
Want to flush out swollen legs? Stop doing this first. I'm going to show you something about foot and ankle swelling that might surprise you. Most folks have heard of lymph nodes, but what nobody talks.
This is just one of... I listed other cases and examples of things there because there's becoming a trend. Speaking to the former Police and Crime Commissioner earlier on, Festus, about this, and he's seeing it as well. The pendulum has swung in a completely other direction, right? It's swung in a direction where if someone who might be brown says, that guy's been racist, while that guy is dying, literally dying, they care more about that than they do about the kid on the floor who's clearly been handcuffed for whatever reason they handcuffed him, bonkers because he clearly wasn't a threat to him. They care more about the claim of racism.
The whole thing is a total mess. And let me say, I don't think that was a grovelling apology at all.
No, I don't either.
I think that was a carefully worded apology that was not much more than an expression of regret. That's point one. The point you raised in your monologue just then that was really, really worth it was this whole business of carrying a 21-inch ceremonial knife on the streets of Britain when we have knife crime that is endemic in this country. And when we've got supermarkets volunteering to sell blades with rounded tips, and still we allow a ceremonial knife because it's some sort of exemption, because it is something that's important to a particular ethnic group, that should never have happened.
No.
Then you've got this horrendous street side situation where the guy doesn't call it. See, if he had been in any way innocent, which I think I could say now that he's been convicted, in any way innocent, he would have, the human thing to do would have been to call for an ambulance. He did not. He called for the police. The police get there, and then at that point, it's like a perfect storm. They behave in an utterly naive fashion, and the poor boy bleeds to death on the pavement. Now, I think we need to be careful that we remember the coroner or the autopsy recorded that he would have, that the police officers couldn't possibly have saved him from the hideous knife wound he sustained. But that was a perfect storm of events that led a family to now have a lifelong grief that they will perhaps never get over.
Yeah, Lord Bailey, it's harrowing. It's really upset people today. There's many people in Britain who feel the police no longer work for them. They work for the ideologies of the left.
Let's be very clear, people should be very upset about this, but it's the people who should be backing the police. What you see now is a culture where the police are responding to what they get rewarded for and what they get punished for. And all you have to do is say racism. Everybody panics because the police are punished so heavily in the press and by their political paymasters. Somebody needs to stand up to the police to change the culture. That culture is deeply embedded in the civil service because ultimately they're the people who punish the police on behalf of politicians. Somebody needs to push back and say, you don't do this job on the front line. We're constantly called racist. We need to do our job first. And look, someone might actually believe the police are racist. They might actually be a racist in a situation. But their job is to keep us safe first. And they utterly failed here.
Yeah,
and here's the point from a policing point of view. The moment that boy said, I've been stabbed, The obvious question is where?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah.
Even if you don't believe him,
Yes.
even if you think he's a lunatic, even if you think he's the most racist person in the world, where have you been stabbed?
Yep.
And when he said, well, here, he could have, they would have seen he'd been stabbed.
Well, what
And
we
let's be
understand
clear,
as well that his shirt was ripped, that he had a cut on his face. So there was clearly evidence of some sort of violence, and the police still failed to do that.
I will always try to support the police, but in this case I can't. That's
I agree.
poor policing. Where have you been stabbed, young man? In my back, my foot, my leg, and they would have looked. And what I didn't like about the police apology, I understand why it might be an issue. What I didn't like is when he said, and of course the coroner said that the police officers couldn't have saved him. That may be technically correct, but the police officers could have guaranteed he was comfortable. They could have made sure he didn't and wear handcuffs.
Yeah,
in his
absolutely.
The last moments he
Handcuffs.
dies being
handcuffs.
seen as the criminal. I can't imagine.
His parents would be heartbroken forever, and the police could have avoided that.
Yeah.
If we're going to give the police the authority, the least they can do is their basics training, and they failed in that in every single way possible.
Yeah. Matthew, when George Floyd, who's an American, by the way, thousands of miles away, happened to also be a criminal, when he died, your Prime Minister and Angela Rayner, your former Deputy Prime Minister, took a knee. They took a knee for this kind of police behaviour. Where are they today?
Well, I'm not sure that taking the knee at that stage was the wisest thing to do, although everybody's doing it, from celebrities to the England football team. Perhaps it was a more complex situation that people, out of goodwill and for the right reasons, thought at the time. Look, the police got this tragically
Is it just not hip? Yeah, they did in this case. The hypocrisy is what stinks for people, Matthew, because when it's a white kid, we saw that same as that woman who was killed by a black man in America on the train, Ivanka. I can't remember her full name, unfortunately, but forgive me for that. There was nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely, and look, and that mustn't be the case. Look, I think that we need to learn lessons from this, and the lesson is, look, we all know that there are horrific racially motivated crimes in this country. It is absolutely right that the police take racially motivated crimes seriously, but they need to take it seriously, but they need to take it with common sense. So that, first of all, their human instinct shouldn't be overridden to help the injured party, shouldn't be overridden by a desire they think that on the basis of one accusation that the injured party is wrong. And look, we all, we know now that what worries me is that we end up with the boy who cried wolf scenario, where people who falsely claim racism are actually, they're desensitizing us to very serious cases of racism, because they, when it's claimed and it isn't there, they're doing everybody a disservice. So frankly, in this case, I would hope that the false accusations of racism, which do everybody harm, especially people of colour who may be victims of future genuine incidents and attacks, I hope that's taken into account in the sentencing. It certainly should be.
Let me ask you about this. Should Sikhs be allowed to carry any form of knife with them, whether it be ceremonial or not?
Well, I mean, I think that generally the Sikh population has been a very patriotic and respectful population.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't heard of many incidents like this. We obviously know that there are exemptions on motorcycle helmets as well. Clearly, I think it has to be looked at after this incident. It's probably the only incident of its kind. It could be any other sort of knife. So I wouldn't instantly work into banning it, but I think it needs to be looked at and reassessed.
Banned from carrying 21-inch knives.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it was so long. It was centimetres.
It's 21
centimetres, but it's still massive.
It's a ceremonial, like a ceremonial dagger.
But whether it has to be like
even if it's blunt, it's dangerous. It probably makes more of a mess if it's blunt. Look, I am a practicing Christian. I understand the power and the reality of religion for people. But we're in a country where we now need to look at treating everybody the same.
Yes.
There's too many protected characteristics. Yeah. And if you're going to give that dispensation, where's mine?
Yes.
I will campaign for mine. Yeah. And we need to say to people, too many protected characteristics. We're going to have a look at these, and the basic is, can we keep everybody safe? Yeah. That should be the characteristic.
And it's not just about whether you are responsible with a knife. As we know, knives can be turned on people.
Yeah, that's why knives, it's got to be out.
Taken off.
A lot of young people are harmed with a knife. It's their own knife that they're stabbed with. The Sikh population in this country are largely law-abiding. But they're also part of this country, and we all should be treated the same.
And I think there'll be discussion within the Sikh community as well, because obviously British Sikhs will be absolutely horrified and shocked by this. And obviously, particularly because it's a religious symbol, it feels like a desecration as well as a tragedy.
I totally understand that. I actually completely concur with all of you here, because, listen, we are one country. we should all be equal under the law. One of the things that really winds me up is that we have been pandering so much to small little concessions here, exemption for you. A bicycle helmet is completely, that's your choice. That can kill you if you don't want to wear one, right? That's absolutely your fun. But when you're carrying something that can be used and turned on somebody, I don't care about the circumstances. I don't care what race, skin colour, religion or ethnicity you are all treated the same or nobody's treated the same.
That's exactly right. I mean, not especially when we know that knife crime in this country has reached such proportions that we are being encouraged all the time to consider doing something about it. You know, to make sure that children don't carry these weapons, to make sure that other people don't.
And every kitchen knife in a shop is in a block of
This
flats.
should be a shock to the Sikh community.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
They've had very little to no contact with knife crime at all. Most Sikh men have carried their ceremonial dagger around, it's been fine. But Sikh men now have to place themselves in the context of all men in this country.
Yes.
That's the issue. My community has been devastated by knife crime.
All right, look, a spokesman for the Independent Office of Police Conduct said this: our thoughts and sympathies are with Henry Novak's family and everyone affected by his death. We are independently investigating the contact Hampshire and Isle of Wight officers had with Mr Novak prior to his death on December 4th, including the use of handcuffs by officers and the first aid provided. Our investigation, which began following the mandatory referral from the force that we received the same day, remains ongoing, and the officers involved are currently being treated as witnesses. And in a statement after the verdict today, temporary Deputy Chief Constable Robert France of Hampshire Constabulary apologised to Henry Novak's family.
I'm sorry that Henry's life couldn't be saved that night, and I'm sorry that he was handcuffed and arrested in the moments before he lost consciousness. When his killer made that call to police, and he called the police, not the ambulance service, he lied on that call. He lied when police attended the scene. He continued to lie as Henry's condition deteriorated.
In the transcripts, obviously Henry's saying, I'm dying and I've been stabbed.
I don't know whether they heard him or not. What they didn't do was fully understand the situation that was happening in front of them. It is clear, and it is absolutely tragic, that it took them 3 minutes before they started to administer first aid. It is important, though, to say the pathologist has been clear. There's nothing officers could have done which would have saved Henry's life.
Crime and Policing Minister Sarah Jones said, this is a truly horrific case and my thoughts are with Henry's family and friends. No verdict can undo the pain that they are living with, but I hope today's brings some small measure of justice. It's right that an IOPC investigation has been launched into actions of the police to get to the truth.